bias has become a buzzword. But in my work with organizations, I've realized that very few marketing and communications professionals really understand how unconscious bias affects their work. Unconscious bias, or implicit bias, basically occurs when our brains make a decision outside of our conscious awareness. This can be both good or bad. On the plus side, it can save us a lot of time. Just imagine having to stop and think what a red light means every time you see one. Implicit bias gets us to hit that brake right away. However, on the negative side, sometimes our brains can make decisions based on inaccurate or bad data. For example, we may think that somebody with a charming smile is really trustworthy, only to find out later that they're not. Or we may think that somebody short is incompetent at their job, only to realize that those two qualities are completely unrelated. For marketers and communications professionals, this becomes even more magnified and a lot more complex to mitigate. That's because savvy marketers know that they need to actually be aware of their audience's unconscious bias in order to tap into those emotions quickly. But if it's done too hastily or without an eye towards equity and inclusion, marketers can play into harmful stereotypes or cultural appropriation. In the worst case scenarios, companies that are completely unaware of mitigating bias can end up in a PR disaster. At the same time, the threat of loss shouldn't be the only reason why marketers and communications professionals care about mitigating bias. Recent research has shown that consumers really want to interact with brands in which they can see themselves, and if they don't, they're going to leave those brands. So, by being more inclusive in your branding and design, you can tap into hidden markets and attract a whole new clientele. In short, mitigating bias in branding and design isn't just the nice thing to do or the safe thing to do to mitigate risk. It's an incredibly strategic thing to do that can lead to growth and profitability.